Today on Outside the Box Reviews, we are taking a look at the McFarlane Assassin's Creed Series 1 Connor figure from Assassin's Creed 3. The McFarlane Assassin's Creed line is probably the line that I have been looking forward to with both the most excitement and the most trepidation. I guess I probably don't have to say it here. I'm a NECA fanboy. I think I've proven myself in that point time and time again. My experience with McFarlane is mostly back in their older Movie Maniacs line, and the only recent figures I've gotten from them have been those Walking Dead figures, which you know I loved the Michonne and really didn't care for her pets. And seeing all the preview pictures of these and not actually being able to see them in person at whatever conventions they appeared and whatnot, I had a very hard time anticipating what scale these figures were going to be in. As I mentioned with the Walking Dead line, they, for some reason, really wanted to put those in some strange 4-inch scale. Too big for 3 3/4 inch, too small for 6-inch or 7-inch figures. And I first saw these go up on Amazon, and the product was listed as being 6 inches tall. I assumed that meant the card, which was a very tall, narrow card. And then McFarlane put them up on their website and listed them as 6-inch scale figures. So I wasn't really sure what we were getting. Well, if we stand Connor straight up and bust out the ruler Shartimus Prime style, we can see that he is exactly 6 inches tall. When McFarlane says it's a 6-inch figure, they mean it. So if we bring in the NECA Assassin's Creed Brotherhood figure of Ezio, we could see he towers over Connor. It's like father and son here. And even if we bring in the Assassin's Creed 2 Ezio figure, which is a little bit smaller than the later NECA release, we could still see he's way too big. Even a figure that I would say is truly in the 6-inch scale, the Iron Man Legends Ultron figure, is way too tall to fit with these. So McFarlane says 6-inch scale, they really mean literally 6 inches, because most figures that are supposed to be a 6-inch tall figure really vary between 6 and 7, and the NECA ones vary normally between 7 and 8. The part of this that bugs me the very most is the fact that the reason why NECA gives us 7-inch figures is because of McFarlane. This all started with McFarlane, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I've always taken it. McFarlane made their Movie Maniacs lines and some of their other stuff at the 7-inch scale. And when companies came out like NECA and Mezco, they kept their figures in that scale so it would all be cohesive, it would all work together. So the whole reason the figure collection I have is predominantly a certain size figure is tracing its roots back to McFarlane. And now that McFarlane's attempting to have this weird resurgence after their whole sports craze, and they're starting to make figures again that kinda are a little bit more like what they used to make, they're now going at this really awkward mid-size scale, which really annoys me. For Connor's accessories, every one of these figures in this line comes with a downloadable piece of content for Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. So this one comes with Connor's sails, which I guess are sails for your ship, the Jackdaw, in a Connor style color or something like that. Interesting. I'll be curious to see how these turn out when I actually get the game this fall. For Connor's weapons, here on his side, he has his flintlock pistols. Little back-facing flintlocks on his belt. They are removable. And we can see one of these looks a little better than the other. The one on the left, to my eye, looks a little more wood grain and well painted. The one on the right kind of comes across as a turd with some metal bits on it to me. But there is some good sculpting detail in there. For whatever reason, there's these little round parts on the one on the left that look a little odd, like part of the molding process that went awry. The silver paint's okay. On the back side, we just kind of have the long plaque-looking piece on it and some additional detail. There's nothing spectacular about these, but they serve their purpose. Now, Connor does not have a trigger finger. The finger is somewhat raised up, but still connected to the others. So there is no actual way for him to get his finger in the trigger guard, so he ends up holding it just below that, which is a little awkward. Probably Connor's most iconic weapon is his Tomahawk with the assassin symbol shape of the head here. Very cool looking, some good detail, probably the nicest weapon he actually has detail-wise. I really like this one, and just as a character design bit, I love that he has a Tomahawk instead of a sword, because all the other assassins had swords, and this was a little nicer to have something different. Connor has his bow, and while it's nowhere near as nice as that Dutch bow that NECA gave us, it's still pretty good. It has the wrappings on it, a decent wood effect. McFarlane isn't really going too heavy with the wood grain. I guess they think brown plastic will suffice, but it kind of has a vague texture to it in the paint, which is okay. Different wrappings on it. It has a white elastic as the actual bowstring, which is pretty flexible. Lets you put him over him, lets you get into some poses where it looks like he's pulling back to fire, even though those are very awkward to achieve at the level of articulation he has. He has no arrows you could put in it, nothing like that, so you can't even really mock up him taking a shot. It really exists mostly to sling over his shoulder and have it sit there, which is a bit of a bummer. Also, some of the prototype images I saw, this string was black instead of white, and it blended in a lot better. The white stands out very starkly. Connor's lasso weapon here is his assassination knife. Very cool looking, pretty well detailed for as small as it is. Nice silver paint on it. Turn it over, it has two little peg holes on the back. On Connor's arm, we have two little pegs as well, so the knife can actually peg right in there, and you could have just traditional assassin blade look coming out of his wrist gauntlet. But Connor's blade has a little extra twist, literally, so you could have it come out and actually put it in his hand like he's skinning an animal or just fighting somebody off with it in knife mode. Very cool that we have the ability to do that. I was not very excited about the fact that we no longer have retractable blades, we now have detachable blades. One of my least favorite things about the NECA Assassin's Creed Part 2 figure is that he has the detachable blade that I'm also afraid I'm going to lose. This gives it at least a valid excuse to be detachable for a character reason. As for the detail on the figure itself, the head leaves a little to be desired. I don't feel like it really looks like Connor. And for a video game figure and not something based off a real person, this kind of bugs me. Presumably the 3D model of this was available. I don't know to McFarlane specifically, but it was available somewhere. It exists. And they didn't really seem to capture it all that well. I always think of Connor's nose of being a little wider than this. It's a very narrow nose. The skin tone they got pretty well. The eyes look okay up in there. They're very small, but they have a right look to them. It really is just the nose and maybe one or two other facial features I can't put my finger on that really bug me. The hood looks nice. It has the nice little dip here in the middle, casting a great shadow over his eyes, which is very iconic assassin to me. There's some very faint detailing at the very tip of it there. It's very hard to see on camera. The whole hood is a very rigid material and not very pliable at all, which is a bit of a bummer. I thought maybe it would be removable or something, but you can peel it back, see there's a little bit of sculpting in there, but it really feels like you're gonna break it because it's very, very rigid. Even though it is softer rubber material, it's super, super rigid. Coming into the chest, the sculpting is fine for my taste. Doesn't look that bad. It very much captures the kind of colonial outfit, but the painting is a mess. There's a lot of slop here on the actual straps. The paint doesn't seem to go all the way through in parts. You can almost like see the white through it, and then other places it kind of slops around different areas. Not very good. You can see the sculpted detail in here. There's actually little holes in here for the buckle and everything, but the paint seems to be applied too thick and it actually drowns out a lot of those details. So that really stinks. A pretty good sculpt ruined by bad paint. We have his assassin logo here on his belt, which also appears to be two different colors. I assume this red here and this are supposed to be a similar color, all part of one belt, but it's a very bright, vibrant red that I don't like here on the belt buckle, and a pretty good red down here on the little tassel. Same with the blue on here. In real life, with my naked eye, it is a much more muted blue, a very true colonial looking blue that you'd see with, you know, American soldiers back in the day. But with this lighting and on camera, it comes off as a very shiny, bright blue, and anytime you really apply bright light to it, it does that. I'm not a big fan of that. It doesn't look right. Here on the back, we have some extra pouches. We have his quiver with some great detailing on it. I really like the way they made this look, the little fringes coming off of it. 3 arrows that aren't detachable. Just black plastic cap in there to not really allow you to see deeper in. On his upper arm is a little band around here on each side. I think they let Connor kind of bring some of his own cultural touches into this costume. It's a very American, British style uniform, and they kind of brought in some more Native American influences to it, which I really do like. On this side, he has kind of just a normal cuff around his wrist. Obviously, the hidden blade would be in there. There is not one for this figure. His fingerless gloves. On this side, we have the full gauntlet, which is a little dark for my taste. I think it was actually a little lighter in the game. The assassin logo on there. And you can even see the essence of straps that would come and actually meet up where the blade goes in here on the pegs. Down to his lower torso, we have some blue pants I didn't even know he wore. I just thought he had these kind of chaps or whatever these are that you can see on this lower section, this leathery looking bit, which I really like the sculpt on, even if the paint's a little lacking. I didn't even realize he actually had blue pants on, so now I know. Connor has blue pants with these on top of it. But a lot of great detail on these, little fringes down here at the side. The shoes are a little plain, but that is how they are in the game. Around back here, we have the coattails, which I really despise. The soft rubber on this figure is actually really bad. It's pliable, but not much, and it really, really kills articulation. Speaking of which, we have a ball joint at the neck, so you can go left and right, look down. Looking up more is pretty much impossible because the back of his hood hits his back, and because it's not pliable at all, it just sticks and stops. His arms can move forward and back, out to the side very well. There's a ratchet joint in here, which you can very clearly see because it sticks out beyond the sculpt of the figure. Who the heck thought that was a good idea? I would rather have the shoulders beefed up a little bit, covering this ratchet joint, and just have him look like he has really puffy shoulders, than to have narrower shoulders with the joint coming out. To me, that's very distracting and very annoying. Very complex little joint here at the elbow. We have a ratchet hinge, so you can move in and out, and then on each side of that, we have a separate swivel, so it's kind of a middle piece that just connects the two other sections of his arm. I like that. It gives you a lot of posability with that particular piece, which is cool. The wrist itself is very reminiscent of Hot Toys. You could swivel the hand, you could also bend at the wrist, and that whole assembly will rotate within the arm so that you can actually move the whole hand around and change where the orientation of the bend is, which is very, very cool. Now at first I thought there was no mid-torso or waist joint, but I found out if you try really, really hard, there is a waist joint in there. It just is nearly impossible to access. So that freaking sucks. If this had been a soft rubber, you probably could have manipulated that joint a hell of a lot better, but we got nothing here. The legs are not the greatest joints. You can go forward a little bit, not too much. Back is very hard because of this tail coat. Out to the side a little bit, nothing great. You can swivel up there at the top as well. It's basically just a ball joint. We don't get a whole lot of movement, which stinks because an assassin needs to be able to move. The knee is on another ratchet joint, can move almost 90 degrees and swivel as well. The foot on another ratchet joint, forward and back, a great range of motion there, and also a pivot, which is very much appreciated. At the end of the day, I really don't know how I feel about this figure. McFarlane has the rights to all Assassin's Creed right now, so they can do games both coming up and in the past. So there is a very large chance we will see another Altair, another Ezio, all kinds of figures going back in the history of things we've already gotten from NECA. And I actually think there is a box set with Ezio coming at some point, so we will see him in the near future. So for us Assassin's Creed fans, that means starting down this road means restarting our collection. And I was really happy with what NECA gave us. The figures kept getting better and better, and I think the last two releases they did were very, very cool, and I wish they would have continued. But I gotta try to look at this on its own merits and say, is McFarlane doing a good enough job just in its own right? And I really don't know how to call it. One thing I know is that this figure is not the same as the third figure I'm going to review, the Edward Kenway. He is very different, and I can't wait to talk about him. Actually, I'm very excited to do that review. At this point, I don't actually have the Hatham figure in hand. I'll be getting it very, very soon. And I'm guessing that these two Assassin's Creed figures may have been made as almost a prototype stage for the line, and then the Edward may be a sign of what we're gonna get moving forward with the line. If that's the case, my opinion is gonna be vastly different than what it's gonna be if this is all one cohesive unit. I'm going to give Connor here the very, 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 very slightest of recommends for hardcore Assassin's Creed fans only. He's nothing spectacular. He's not really what I wanted him to be. The fact that he has a lot of articulation, he really does, but a lot of it's useless and you can't get the poses you want. It mostly comes out of the fact that there's no real waist or mid-torso articulation and the legs can't move in and out enough. And the lack of good soft rubber pieces on here, or soft goods or something, really cripples this figure and really disappoints me. But as the beginning to something new, I am still intrigued to see what McFarlane will do heading forward. I guess there's no use pining for the NECA days until maybe they get the license back. This is what we're getting for the foreseeable future, and I'm at least on board to keep checking them out for a little while now. We'll see how that goes as the line progresses, but that's my call on this one. If you were desperate for a Connor figure, this is one you can add to your collection, but unfortunately, if you already have an Assassin's Creed collection, he's not gonna go with your collection. Make sure you check out Outside the Box Reviews on Facebook. There'll be a link below. And until next time, it's been another Outside the Box Reviews, and stay tuned because Assassin's Week continues next time.